Assalamualaikum everyone, and welcome back to MehdinaTV. So as you can see, it's just me today because today I will be sharing with you my niqab story. So basically how I started wearing the niqab, where it came from, how the concept came in my head, did I always want to do it, was I forced to do it? All of these questions will be answered in this video. Before I get into the video, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. The button is right there. And don't forget to like and comment. So let's get into the video. I was born in Pakistan in a joint family. So our family was pretty big. We weren't the most modern people per se, but we did have certain religious values, and that's what I grew up seeing. So I used to see women in my family covering their heads with like just a shawl, maybe, like no hijabs growing up. Like I didn't see anyone covering their face full time growing up. And sometimes I would see ladies come to our house. They would be wearing the face covering. Like I think I've seen like one or two when I was very young. And I would think, why are their faces covered? Because it didn't make any sense to me. I didn't really understand why a face would be covered, because like I needed that to communicate with people. I needed that to see their expressions. But then I would also have that curiosity, like I wonder what that person looks like under there. Obviously I was a girl and I was a kid, so I got to see their face. But at the same time, I didn't understand why women wore that outside. So that was my childhood. Basically, I grew up in Pakistan seeing this kind of environment where hijab wasn't very common in my family. Then I come to Canada. I went to school in a public elementary school, so I didn't get any exposure to the hijab. Like I think there was one girl in my class who wore it. And the biggest exposure I got to the hijab, at least when I was 8, that was the most exposure I got from the hijab. But then my mom, she suddenly started wearing the hijab outside. And that was new to me because I was used to seeing women covering their heads like part-time maybe, where I'm from. And then I see my mom wearing a hijab outside. And that was different from what I was used to. Like she still didn't wear it everywhere. Like she wouldn't wear it in front of the family members. She wouldn't wear it in front of the cousins. But she would wear it outside. And I was curious. I was like, Mom, why are you wearing that? And she's like, well, I just want to be identified as a Muslim. So I guess that's when I started understanding that the hijab or the head covering has something to do with identity, or to be identified as a Muslim. Then I grow up a little bit more. I go to grade 5 or grade 6, like both years. And there was one girl in my whole entire school who wore a hijab. And she actually became my friend. It was really nice because she would really motivate me to wearing a hijab, but I was very scared to wear a head covering, only because I thought if I started I would have to keep it on for the rest of my life, and I wasn't ready for that. But then one day I got really motivated by her, and I took a hijab and I hid it in my backpack and I took it to school and I put it on. And that was a very interesting experience because every kid in my class, literally like almost every kid in my class, they came up to me and they're like, what are you wearing? What is that thing in your head? What is that thing on your head? Why are you wearing it? And I was like, I'm wearing it because I'm Muslim. I want to be identified as a Muslim. And they're like, yeah, but you don't really need it. It's just a weird thing on your head. And honestly, because I had no intentions of wearing it for the rest of my life, and I snuck it in my bag and I knew I could take it off after, I was very confident. So I would answer them and I would be like, yeah, you know what? It's my choice. I can do what I want. If I want to wear that on my head, I'll do it. And they were just like, okay, whatever. So I was like, okay, getting used to the idea. Maybe I will wear it from now on. Then the end of the day happened. My mom came. And I'm the worst liar in the world, so obviously she found out that I had the hijab snuck into my backpack. So she found out and she was like, so you wore the hijab today? And I was like, yes, Mom, I wore the hijab today. And so she's like, you realize you can't just joke about this, right? If you want to wear the head covering, you should commit to it. So if you want to start now, you should start now for good. You can't just, do a part-time thing. Like, you can't just wear it and then not wear it. It's going to confuse people. At that point, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not ready. So I decided to take it off, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this. No more hijab. Then I finally get into grade 7, and that was an all-girls school. So my uniform had a head covering as part of it. So I go to that all-girls school, and the first girl I noticed there, there were other girls in the class, but the first girl I noticed there, she's like one of my best friends now, but the first girl I noticed there comes into the classroom, and she has a face veil on, like a niqab on her face. And I still remember that day. I was like in awe when I saw her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she is so young, but she has her face covered. I don't even cover my head. She comes into the classroom, and I still remember I used to like stare at her in admiration, because like it just seemed so interesting to me, the whole concept of a face veil, because for me that was like, I would never do that. And in grade 7 I was going through a phase where I didn't even want to like really cover my head or do anything. Like, I was in that confused phase. So I would basically admire her, and the whole time, like, I remember thinking like, I want to be this girl's friend, but I didn't know if I could at that time. It was just very interesting. But yeah, then we move on a few years forward, and I was getting used to the idea of hijab, like just wearing it every day as a uniform. I started getting more and more used to the idea of hijab. I still wasn't ready, but then grade 10 happened. So 4 years after grade 7, 4 years of being in that Islamic school, grade 10 happened, and a big change happened in my family. So my mom, she started wearing the hijab full-time, like completely full-time. So she started covering her head in front of everyone. That includes cousins, unrelated uncles. We went to Pakistan, and I remember she would keep her head covering on, her hijab on, the whole time. Because it's a joint family system there, but she had it on the whole time. And I didn't wear a hijab at that time, or the niqab. And I would just look at her and I'd be like, how can you just wear that all the time? Doesn't it get hot in there? So I literally had the same exact questions as everyone that asks me those questions now. Because like now when I get the questions of, are you hot in there? Are you this? Are you that? It's the exact same questions that would go into my head. So I would ask my mom, like, aren't you feeling hot in that? Like, how could you keep it on? It's like so much. How could you do that? And my mom would just look at me and she'd be like, I'm doing it for God. And I'm doing it to obey God. And I'm doing it because I don't care about this world as much. It's temporary. So like at that time, it was just something really odd to me. I was like, oh, I don't think I can ever do that. And my mom never forced me either. Like, she never forced it upon me. So I was like, okay, I can just do whatever. I can get away with it. Going forward a few more months into like the year, and that was still in grade 10. So going forward a little more, December happened of that year when I was in grade 10, and my mother decides to wear a face veil. I was still getting used to the idea of a hijab full time, and my mom starts a face veil, and I'm just like, what? I was like, what are you doing? What is this? Why are you wearing that on your face? Everyone's gonna look at you and make fun of you. And she'd be like, I don't care. I found out it's in the Quran and I'm gonna do it. But I'm like, Mom, this is so weird. Like, how can you? And I remember we were actually like going to my parent-teacher night, and my mom started the niqab that day. She started the niqab the day we went to the parent-teacher night, and like a few days after we went to Disney World. I'm like, Mom, if we're going to parent-teacher's night and you're wearing a niqab, and then we have to go to Disney World and you're going to be wearing a niqab, how are you going to do that? We're going to be there the whole time. We're going to be outside the whole time. How are you going to keep that on? And she was like, I'll just do it. And then I watched her, and we went to Disney World. I didn't even wear a head covering at that time, guys. I didn't. So I watched her, and she's like in a full covering. And then there's me, and I'm in my like pants and shirt, and I'm just looking at her like, what? I felt so shameless standing next to my mother. And my sister also did a scarf. She also wore a hijab, and I'm just standing there like, what? I don't even feel like I belong to this family. I feel too like outside. So I was still getting used to the idea, and I see her in Disney World. We're outside the whole day, and I see my mom wearing a face veil all day. And I just stare at her like, how are you doing this? I have no idea how you can have that kind of devotion, because like that's like some next level stuff. She would just say the same thing over and over to me. She'd be like, I do it to obey God. I do it to, I do it because this world is temporary. I do it because I learned that this is in the Quran, and that's the opinion that I follow. I follow the opinion that the niqab is wajib. So I continue to like just, I guess deep down I was actually kind of admiring the fact that she did this. Then I started self-searching myself. And I think that's the moment it started happening. Like Disney World is when it started happening, because I felt like I was not being able to identify, like I couldn't feel like a Muslim, because I didn't feel like anyone who would see me would identify me as a Muslim. And I just felt like I had an identity crisis in ways. From that moment on, I started thinking more and more about it. And I went back to school, my Islamic school, and I started talking to all my friends that wore a face veil. I started talking to all of them one by one, and I'd be like, so is it hard? Like, how do you do it? How do you manage going outside in a face veil? And they'd just be like, it's not that hard, it's fine. The way they talked about it was so chill, and the vibe was just so chill. I was like, oh my God, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. So a month passes after December, and January happens. I'm just like, I think it's time for me to start covering. And I started talking to some friends, and I still remember my best friend, the day I started to like think that I'm gonna do the face veil, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready, because like I have enough information where I know that if I started the face veil, it's not gonna be hard. So I was like ready to kind of experiment with it in ways. And then January happened. I talked to one of my best friends. She's like my bestest friend right now. But I talked to one of my best friends, and I told her I want to start a face veil, and she laughed at me because I didn't even wear a scarf. She was like, you don't even wear a scarf. What? You're not going to start a face veil? And I was like, watch, I will start it tomorrow. And she's like, no, you're not. And I was like, watch me. So I go home and I tell my mom, I am ready to do the face veil. And my mom was shocked. She's like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes, I want to do this for sure. And my mom's like, no one's forcing you, right? And I'm like, no one's forcing me. My friends are not forcing me. No one pressured me into doing this. She's like, you realize this is a big commitment, right? Like if you start a face veil, it's a big commitment. That means you need to carry that out for as long as you can. And I was like, yes, I understand. And she's like, remember, you are representing Islam when you're wearing this. And I was like, yes, I know. So she gives me a niqab. She had like a few extras, and she gives me one. And it was the type where it had like double layers. So the type of niqab I started wearing, it was like this. It was like a double piece niqab. Okay, I can try it on and show you guys. Like it was like this, and it was like this. So basically it was like a two-piece niqab, and that's what I started wearing when I first started wearing the niqab. And I remember going to school. I wore it, and I go into my school bus. I used to take the school bus to school. The only person in that school bus was asleep at that time. So I went there, I went on my seat, and I sat down, and I was just like, chilling, like, okay, no one said anything so far. Then that person on the bus wakes up, and the first thing she does when she sees me is scream. So I was like, that's great. That's the first reaction I get to wearing the face veil. She looks at me and she's like, what are you wearing on your face? And I was like, it's a face veil. She's like, why? I'm like, because I'm starting this. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, well, you know, I mean, I'm just trying it out. I want to see if I can do this, you know? So she's like, okay, whatever. I go into my classroom and I go to my best friend and I'm like, so what are you going to say about it now? She's like, you what? You actually wore it? And I was like, yup, yeah, I did it. And that was really weird because I started the niqab and the hijab at the same time. I don't know, I'm just really weird. I thought the niqab would be easier because like by default I'd be wearing a hijab. My logic didn't make sense, but at that time it did, I guess. So I thought face veil would be easier. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. It still doesn't, but alhamdulillah, I chose that and it stuck with me till today. So I decided to stay in the class and I was like, maybe I won't wear it in front of the male teachers. Because that's what I thought initially, like I probably won't wear it in front of male teachers. And then my first male teacher came and I was still wearing a niqab. At that moment it just felt awkward taking it off. I was like, dang, I lost my timing, I can't take it off anymore. Because now it'll look weird, like I already have it on, now it'll look weird if I take it off. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep it on. And then the next male teacher came and I still couldn't take it off. I just couldn't bring myself to take it off. I guess at that moment I was like, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm just gonna keep it on for the rest of my life now. The feeling I got was the feeling of when you are going on top of a roller coaster, like you go on top, and then that's when you realize there's no going back because you can't get off the roller coaster anymore. You're in it for good until it's done. And that's the kind of like moment I had. It was like an epiphany. I'm like, this is something that I'm keeping for life. It felt like it was part of me. Even though it was my first day, I just felt like the niqab was part of me. It made me feel closer to Allah. It made me feel closer to God. And I can't really describe the feeling because it's the past now, but the feeling I had was like, oh my God, this is for real. Now if people see me outside, they'll know I'm Muslim. And so that's what happened. But I noticed after I started the niqab, I noticed that people actually treated me with a lot more respect than I felt before. Like if I would go outside or anywhere, men would actually be more respectful. I didn't feel like people were staring at me anymore. I felt like the boys on my bus would treat me with a lot more respect. I felt like I actually had some kind of say in anything. They started taking me more seriously. I don't know why. I mean, I'm the same person with a cloth on my face, but for some reason they started like taking me more seriously. My bus driver started taking me more seriously, and I was like so confused, but I liked that feeling. I could just be myself in front of people without them judging me for how I look. Because before that I would always worry, like, is there something on my face if I'm outside? Is there something on my eyes? Am I looking okay? Oh my God, I have an acne today, I have a zit today, oh my God. And I didn't have to worry about any of that anymore. And it just made me feel so much more confident. I was still a very shy person though, until I got to university. And that's when a big test happened, because I was in an all-girls school when I started the niqab, when I started the face veil. I was in an all-girls school, so I didn't really have to face any guys, so to say. Then I go to university and I notice that now I am sharing my classrooms with guys and girls. So before going to university, I took an 18-month course, an Islamic course, and I was like, this is something that I have to take, because I feel like if I didn't take an Islamic course before going to university, I may feel discouraged from wearing a face veil. In fact, even in school, so many times people would tell me, with face veils, it's really hard for women to get married. With face veils, it's really difficult for anything to happen. Like, you can't get a job, you can't do this. And honestly, I'll be honest, when I started the face veil, I did not consider that it might be hard for me to find a job. I never considered that fact. I should have taken that into consideration, but I didn't, because at that time all I was thinking about was what would make me feel more of a Muslim girl. Not that like people who don't do it don't feel Muslim or anything. This was just my thing. It was just my way of thinking. So I guess reality hit me at one point, and I realized that, you know, I'm done school, and if I go to university straight away, I may feel pressured to taking my face veil off, because I wanted a job eventually and I wanted to be able to, like, you know, have a career. Then I do that course. It really helped. It really built my iman more. It helped me like get closer to Allah. It helped me understand that what I'm doing is for Allah, and that this world is temporary. So even if I don't get to build a career, it's fine. So I go to university. I actually went to classes with my best friend, so I actually had some support. I wasn't alone, and that was great. It felt great. And I was very shy in front of men because I wasn't used to the fact that there are guys and girls in my class now. So I would always like run away from all the guys. I would not even talk to any of them. Eventually I realized, like, you know, working in group projects and stuff, I started getting a little bit more eased into the idea that there are guys in my class. And I think just talking to them made me feel more confident, because when they would talk to me and they would focus on what I was saying instead of like what I was wearing or what type of face I had, I didn't have to worry about any of that. I actually did worry about when I was younger. I actually did care about how people saw me, how people saw my face. And I guess like just knowing that no one was looking at the way I looked, it gave me a lot more confidence. By the second or third year of university, I became a lot more confident and outspoken. And I guess I feel like I'm more outspoken now than I was before, and it's hard for me to even admit that, because I feel like I'm still that same shy person I was back then. But yeah, I have changed a lot, and it's because of the niqab, for sure. Well, part of it was because of the niqab. And then I meet my husband in university, and that was a tale on its own, because like my experience with the niqab, meeting him, was just different, because I think like he was part of the fact that I gained a lot of confidence, because when he started talking to me, it was really a big test for me. I knew that he saw me as a Muslim girl. I knew that I am representing Islam in front of him, so it made me a better person. I tried being the best person possible when I was talking to him. Like I would automatically be this person that, like, you know, that is representing a whole group of people, and that made me feel so good. The fact that a piece of cloth can have that much power over me is just amazing. That was basically my experience with the niqab, and then eventually I married my husband, and he accepted the niqab. Like, he didn't like it before, but he accepted the niqab. And if you guys want to know more about my experience in university with the face veil, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll make a video on that. That was my journey with the face veil itself, and I hope you guys liked my story. And if you did, please don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to comment and suggest things that you want to see in the future. And I hope to see you guys next week, inshallah. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It's right there. Okay? Assalamu alaikum, guys.